Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another What's This Then? Today, we're having a look at a little game called BIRDCAGE. Now, BIRDCAGE is a pretty classic shmup, shoot 'em up for those who don't know. So top-down, bullet hell, shots flying everywhere, really hard, lots of precision movement and shots going everywhere. But this one also has a sword, so a sword them up as well? Don't really know. Kind of one of the unique sort of little gameplay features this one's got going on to kind of separate itself from the rest of the shmups, I suppose. But we'll talk about that a little bit more once I get into the actual game itself. I'm going to show you some gameplay. So this one is developed by and published by Polygon Bird, and as far as I can tell, this is their first. This is a debut game from them. They do have another game in the works that looks kind of like a similar JRPG vibey kind of thing going on, but for right now, this is the only game they've put out. And it's a strong opener. So it came out on the 18th of November there, so not too long ago. And I've put about 2.5 hours into it. Normally this would be a first impressions, but that 2.5 hours was enough for me to beat the game on normal mode. It's a very short game. There are only 6 stages, but they're difficult, and the whole point of, well, I think the whole point of shmups in general is to generally be replayable in like a score attack, you know, higher difficulty kind of way, and this one is no different. But let me tell you, when I say it's short, it is very sweet. Very short and sweet, this game. So many things about it are just so well made. You can tell the devs just had a complete vision for this, and they absolutely nailed it. So, before we hop into any of that, let's talk about this main menu, and how very Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1 this is. The whole game has a definite inspiration from Metal Gear Solid 1. You'll have conversations with characters that are like the codex from Metal Gear Solid 1. Just the PS1 like technological HUD and stuff like that. It's all very it's all very Metal Gear Solid 1. Really cool, really cool vibe, really cool art style. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1 is like still looks incredible to this day, and this game kind of proves that style still holds up really well. Yeah. It just looks fantastic. Now, with this being such a small and very visually artistic game, there's not really a lot of options, you know, in terms of like, you know, graphic stuff. So we'll just talk about the gameplay stuff. So in visual, highlight hitbox. I would recommend keeping this on just so you know exactly where your hitbox is. Although veteran shmup players, once they realize where the hitbox actually, you know, is, they maybe want to turn that off. This, I should also say that my history with the shmup genre is very limited. This is probably my first real, like, full go at a shmup. I've definitely played other games that would be in that style. There was a game on PS3 called, like, Beat Hazard, but it's more of like a twin-stick shooter, not necessarily like a strict shmup. Honestly, if we really want to get into the weeds on this, I think my first literal encounter with a shmup was whenever I was, like, under the age of 10 somewhere, and it was on a parent's phone. And there was this game where it was like, you know, side-scrolling left to right, and you were piloting a little ship, and, you know, you got power-ups, and the enemies came from the right, and you were dodging their shots and stuff, like, super basic. Like, we're talking like when phones were for playing Snake on, you know, like, super basic. So I'm not saying I have any real, you know, gravitas when it comes to talking about shmups in general. So take this all from a newcomer's perspective. Yeah, so highlight hitbox, probably recommend keeping that on, because the ship itself is quite large, but the hitbox for the ship is very small, so that's an important thing to keep in mind. Scanline opacity, you can crank that all the way up to 100, or you can just turn it off if you wish. I quite like it on the default, 0.1. Looks really nice, just adds to the whole aesthetic. Full screen, you can have that on or off if you wish. I don't believe there's a borderless windowed mode. That's like my only criticism of this game, was like all tabbing it was like a little bit janky, but other than that, it's like, you know, there's no real issue. Especially in performance. I mean, the game runs flawlessly. There's no issue there whatsoever. Window border. So this game plays in, is it 4x3? I think it's 4x3. With borders on the side. So you can choose to have like some cool art there, or you can choose to have just some black bars, or there's some unlockable ones that you can get and put up there as well. And then you can also have the opacity on that be different as well. Photosensitivity, I will hopefully have in the title of this video, epilepsy warning, because this game has a lot of flashing, like lots of flashing, as you're probably already seeing from like the background menu and stuff, you could probably imagine. But it's nice that they have this photosensitivity stuff in here. We're just flashing, we're just shaking, we're just both, you know, all that sort of stuff. Audio, background music, and sound effects, you can tweak those. The music is incredible. If you turn that off, you should instantly, the game should just close if you turn this off. Gameplay, you can do control mapping, which is really cool, you know, fully rebindable controls, we love that, especially on a controller, you don't see that too much these days. Sword behavior, so the sword, you know, might be a bit more unusual for people coming into the shmup genres, even those, you know, who are veterans to it. Sword aim is a combination of analog control and auto-targeting, or you can put it to restricted. Sword aim is controlled by directional travel and can be locked by pressing either shot button. I have played this whole thing with recommended, didn't have any issues, so I'd probably recommend keeping an eye on that. You can also change the analog dead zone, because there is a ton of fine movement that you're going to want to be doing in this game, so having the ability to change that is very, very nice. And then you can also change the language soon. Not quite yet, it's in English by default. So, let's go back, and then there's also training and a tutorial. I would recommend doing the tutorial right away, especially if you're new. And then other than that, we've got this sort of extras thing here. We can go into the database. So, because this game is so short, it just throws you in. And there is a wider world here, there is some other concepts going on. You will mostly find that sort of thing through here. So you'll see in the top right, I have Neuro, I have 1385. As you're just playing the game, you just sort of get that, and then you can come here and unlock all this stuff. And it has to be unlocked in order, so I could just, you know, unlock the next one there or whatever. Oh, another thing that just made me realize, because I tried to unlock that and actually went back, is that this game is heavily inspired, you know, Japanese sort of era of PS1, or Japanese region of the PS1. So X is to go back and circle is to confirm. So, but you don't use those buttons like in the actual gameplay. It's just for like menu stuff. So kind of neat, kind of interesting, kind of different. There's also local leaderboards and online leaderboards as well. So those are cool. So after your main playthrough is done, you can choose, or because you can also play in like arcade mode, you can just upload your score as well. So that's part of the replayability. So that's that. Now, normally I'd play the game while we discuss it. This sort of game, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. There's a lot of focus goes into shmups, as I'm learning with this one, especially that last boss, holy shit. So I'm going to throw up some gameplay in the background, and then I'll just continue discussing the game from there. Alright? Sounds good. Alright. Transition. Right, so in the background, you should hopefully be seeing, I'm going to be doing all that in post, you should be seeing gameplay. What will be in the background is me going through the first level, and I think a bit of the second level on hard difficulty. So, game has 3 difficulties, easy, medium, hard. What this does is increase the travel speed of the projectiles, I believe. I think that's the only effect it has. I don't believe it makes like the hitbox bigger, or you take more damage, or anything like that. But going from normal, after beating the last boss, and going to the first level on normal, felt like a cakewalk. But playing in the first level again on hard was actually like, okay, you know, this feels like an actual step up. These bosses are hard again, compared to that normal experience. So, really, really cool. Glad to see that. I also like difficulty that's just, like, inherently skill-based, and not just more health or more damage, or, you know, more health bars and stuff like that. But I've talked about that in the past. But anyway, this game is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing in the background, like, just, this game looks fantastic. Such a striking art style. Obviously, like I said previously, that Metal Gear Solid 1 inspiration is hot and heavy right here. But this game just, I feel like it does it justice. You know, it doesn't feel like a, oh, we've just lifted this art style and we're going to steal it. It feels proper inspiration. They've made it their own for their genre, for their shmup, for their game. Really, really cool. Now, the basis of any good shmup, from my understanding over the years, is music, good sense of speed, or generally just a good sense of, like, momentum about the game, and dodging a lot of shots. Now, this game has all 3 of these in spades. like I said, the game is short, so the game is condensed very, very nicely. Every level, it feels like, is teaching you something new to get you ready for the last boss. So the training area will tell you all your buttons and tell you what those do. And in the levels, it feels like reinforce certain aspects of each part of the shmup. So the first level, like, teaches you the difference between the focus shot and the wide shot. So you can narrow your shots to do more damage directly ahead of you, or you can do a wider shot that covers more ground but does less, focus fire. So they're taking less damage, but, for weaker enemies, it's better. Now, you also move slower whenever you're doing the focus shot as well, so that's something to keep in mind. But it feels like each level kind of teaches you something. The next level, I believe it was a good teacher for using the sword. So there's certain enemies that, if you try to just kill them the classic shmup way and just shoot them, you're probably going to have a hard time. It's going to be a little bit awkward. But if you learn to use the sword, then those enemies become like a little bit of a cakewalk, And in probably classic shmup style, every level, you're going to die. Okay, this game is going to kill you. This game will just kill you, or just hit you, and sometimes you'll be like, I don't know what just happened, This game is not afraid to... This game does not pull its punches, and you should be ready to get just straight back into the level, learn what killed you, and go, okay, how can I avoid that next time? And then that's sort of how you progress through the levels, is you learn that section of the level, and how that worked, and how that enemy worked, and the best way to deal with it. And then you move on to the next bit, and then maybe you'll run into an enemy that you know how to deal with perfectly well, just sort of comes to you naturally, or you maybe run into another enemy that's like, oh, I don't know how to deal with you now, so we gotta learn. And then so you'll be going through these levels multiple times. I think on average it took me about maybe 3 or 4 goes per level on normal difficulty until the end. The last level was significantly harder. Although not too crazy. It wasn't such a massive leap, and the game really prepares you for it. So I'm not going to be talking too much about, like, what happens at the end, other than, it's a final boss in a shmup. You probably can kind of guess what kind of gameplay stuff you should be expecting. But in terms of, like, in terms of story, I'll not really be discussing much, although there isn't really a ton to explore there. Well, there will be, like, if you deep dive into, like, the little codex bits you get after that you can go and unlock. And you can really deep dive into, like, the things that are being said, the names of the characters, lots of themes going on here, for such a short game. They definitely had a vision for that as well, very strong one. But the main story starts with your character just waking up and being told, kill the world egg. And you're just like, okay, guess I'm killing the goddamn world egg. That's how this game starts, and that's where it goes. So that's really all you need to know about the story. Super cool. Super vibey, just gets you straight in, the action is immediate, it's constant. The music is so good. The music just, oh my god, the music in like a couple of these levels, like the whole time, I was like, I don't even care if I die, because I just get to hear the music more. Like I will be adding the OST of this to my big, like, gaming playlist for sure, 100%. But yeah, other mechanics to keep in mind. Like I said, the sword, it's got a few different things. It's really strong, obviously at close range, because you can kind of hold the button and sort of wiggle it about with the right stick. And it does damage. And it also neutralizes blue shots. So blue enemy projectiles get neutralized by the sword. So this is super useful. Other shots, not so much. Once you let go of the sword ability, or once you've used a certain amount of its energy, it'll fire out as a projectile, so you can shoot the sword as well, and it's on like a very short cooldown. And certain enemies really incentivize you to, like, get in there with the sword and, like, beat them up with it, essentially. But you just sort of, hold the sword button, hold it over them, it does the damage, good stuff. Really, really fun to use. Especially on certain enemies, it feels really nice. Now, another aspect of it is, another mechanic that you've got is this, like, special attack, the special mode you go into. As you are killing enemies, dodging shots, doing all sorts, you build up a special meter, and once that's activated, you hit L1, I believe it was, and you go into this, like, hyper mode where you are completely invincible, and all of your shots are completely focused dead forward, you move at full speed, and you do more damage. And also the shots are, like, massive as well, like, you massive hitboxes compared to what they were. These moments are for just absolutely shredding whatever is in front of you, or if you find yourself in a really bad spot, you can activate it, and it'll, give you some invincibility, and you can, work from there, get yourself out of that bad spot. Because, like I said, this game will just kill you, this game will put you into situations where you're thinking, like, I am focusing on a million different things at once. I don't know what just killed me, you know? And like I said, that's just part of the experience. If that sort of thing annoys you, I don't think shmups maybe are for you. But it is what it is. Now, the health system works on a 3-pip system, and then you have 2 lives. So you start on your first life, and then if you were to lose all 3 of your health bars, your ship sort of respawns with a second set of 3. Every level has a mini-boss and then a main boss. The mini-bosses, whenever you kill them, will give you an option of 3 things. 1 is a heal, 1 is an extra life, and 1 is like a score thing. There's hidden tokens, I believe they were called, like on the levels. There's like 3 of them. And finding those boosts your score significantly, I believe. Not something I really focused on in my first playthrough, but something you might want to do later. Now, my only sort of game design kind of thing, maybe I just didn't understand it, maybe I just need to play more, but I don't see why you would ever pick the heal over the extra life. Because the extra life just gives you a full heal when you come in anyway. Unless there's a cap to the extra lives. The most I got was like 2 extra hearts. So I had my main life, and then 2 extra goes. So maybe there's like a cap, and then at that point I would see like why you would want the heal. But certainly on my first playthrough, I never picked the heal. I just didn't really see much use. Obviously the token thing as well. I wasn't really picking it, so I just picked extra life pretty much every time. But you can just lose those lives like so fast in some of those boss fights. Like, they are crazy. You will get to those bosses. They will do some crazy bullshit. You will die, and then you will go, ah, I see. And then maybe you'll die to it again, and then you'll learn, and then you will get into the flow state. There is such a flow state with these sorts of games. This is potentially, again, like a shmup thing, because many genres have, like, it's just like an inherent part of what makes them the genre. And I have a feeling that's the same for this, where when you're just hyper-focused on, you know, dodging all the little projectiles, and you're still able to focus on, like, the boss and then what it's doing, and you're weaving in between all the shots, and meanwhile, you know, your shots are just flying out, the health bar's ticking down, you know, you're throwing the sword out, the music is absolutely blasting. Incredible. Incredible. I'm doing the cinema meme in, like, real life right now. It is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, there's really not a whole lot left to say. I mean, like I said, short and sweet, super cool. Enemy variety's fun. There's a whole bunch of enemies. Like, there's some you'll just come up against, you'll be like, ah, shit, here we go. Like, this enemy, you know? Or, like, this section of this level, like, no matter what, will always give me trouble, you know? It's just how it's going to be, sort of thing. There's a couple of, like, characters going on. There's a bit of, like, you know, back and forth between a few people. Whenever I said this game has, like, the codec entries, it's, like, because they literally almost are. You'll be flying up through a level, and at some point a character will call you on, like, a radio, and you'll have, the action will pause, and you'll have, like, a little conversation about something. In one of the levels, there's a slight switch up. I'll not spoil what that is, but, it changes. You know, some things slightly change. And it's a level that is teaching you another really important aspect going forward, you know? Teaches you another really important part about the game that you need to know going into this final boss, because it's going to test you on everything. And I think this game just condenses a whole lot of stuff about what makes video games really cool into just such a tight little package, and it's fantastic. I can't really pick at anything. Like I said, maybe if I was like a more experienced shmup player, if I'd played like a load more, maybe I'd be able to point at something and be like, maybe that isn't so good compared to these other ones, blah, blah, blah. But as far as I'm concerned, coming into this as a complete, fresh shmup player, this was fantastic. It was tough. It was fantastic. It's the sort of game that I would say it's really, really fun just to leave it installed, come back to it every now and again, take a crack at another level on a harder difficulty, enjoy the music, enjoy the visuals, enjoy the vibe, and just have a good time with. And this is one of those games where it's made me look forward to what the devs do next, because there's such a clear vision here, and it comes across massively in this. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say on this. Really, really cool. You can pick it up on Steam for £10.61 or $12.59, which seems like very specific numbers, and that's because it is on a 10% sale until November 25th. So if you are interested in picking it up, it is on 10% sale until then, so I'd recommend it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I shall catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.